Welcome to another episode of the Nana Yayoboa Show. Today I have with me a prolific filmmaker, a gentleman by name Junaid Limann. I'm going to read Junaid's bio before we start, and then Junaid is going to fill in the blanks. I met Junaid in Ghana about a year ago, and we began having conversations. And the in depth of the conversations span his experience as a filmmaker, event planner, and entrepreneur. Not only that, he manages the band called Dark Suburb, the only band in Africa that is into rock music, which is amazing. His previous experiences span advertising and marketing for national brand companies like Liberty Industries. Um, he is also instrumental in planning some of festival business and financial times by contributing several articles on governance and history. So not to say the least, he's also the CEO of True Hive Technologies, a tech e-commerce development company based in Ghana. So I know him on a platform that is music and technology and management. But most important for me and for this interview is really the historical narrative that is linked to Junaid Liman and the history of Ghana. Junaid, Junaid, are you
Yeah,
there?
can you hear me? Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Hear you. I can hear you. Welcome to the Nana Yaya Boy Show.
Thank you very much. It's
Yes,
always a pleasure
yes, yes.
to be here. Yeah.
I'll say this is, I appreciate this gesture, even though it's sort of, say, a, um, a hash putting together. I'm grateful
Yeah.
to you for saying yes to this conversation. And just like we've been having previous conversations, my interest really is in the filmmaking, the type of films that you make, and particularly the one on the president, the former president of the Third Republic, who is now deceased, Dr. Hilla Limann. So, if you don't mind, and number one, you give us a background of who you are. I know I've said a little bit about who you are, but then if somebody comes across you and asks, who is Junaid Liman? Give us a little bit into who you are and how and where you grew up.
Um, well, that's a very difficult question to ask because I feel like every time I evolve, if you ask me 10 years ago, I will give you a different narrative of who I am. And so as time progresses, I find out that I'm passionate about a lot of other things that I didn't know earlier that I was. So, but to answer your question, I am a filmmaker. I am somebody who is passionate about filmmaking. I'm passionate about music. I'm passionate about tech. I'm passionate about the fusion of tech and music and film at the same time. Um, I am also a historian. I'm a student of history. I love history. I love to read about all of our African greats, those who have helped shape Africa into what it is. Not just Africa as per se, also into world history. Um, I love to listen to stories about people like Alexander the Great, like a lot of basically people have shaped the world into what it is. So that is who I am. I'm an African I don't know if there's a word like that, but I'm Pan-American at heart, and basically that's it. I'm a Pan-Americanist. I'm someone who loves music, loves film, and I'm passionate about everything that I do.
So, in context too, is where did you grow up? A little bit about your background. Let's contextualize or situate you with your background and where you grew up.
Well, I was born in Nigeria, um, somewhere in the mid '80s. I was born in Nigeria because at the time my uncle was the president of Ghana. I think from 1979 to 1981, and he was overthrown in a coup d'état. And at the time, because he was arrested, the government was the government of the day, the military government of the day was at the time was very keen on arresting a lot of my family members at the time. So my aunt, that's my uncle's wife, moved to Nigeria and settled there on the invitation of the president of Nigeria at the time, Shehu Shagari. And
Mm-hmm.
my dad at the time too was in the UK. He had just finished, um, he was just been to the bar. He was called to the bar in the UK, and he was schooling there. I think in 1981, far before the coup that happened in 1981, 31st December. I think somewhere in 1981, my uncle went to the wedding of Queen Diana and Prince Diana and and
Yeah,
no, is it
Prince
Prince
Charles.
Charles and
Prince Charles. Yeah,
Lady
and
Diana,
yeah.
and my dad met him there, and my uncle invited my dad to come back to Ghana to help him, make things happen in terms of help
Mm-hmm.
development nature of what he was, the agenda that he was pursuing. So my dad was okay. He was like, okay, fine, he's ready. When he's done. So I think when
Mm-hmm.
he was called to the bar, he was just about to set up, and the coup happened. So
Yeah.
when my uncle's family fled to Nigeria, extended an invitation to my dad to come to Nigeria to look after his brother's family. So that was
Mm-hmm.
how my dad and my mom they all moved to Nigeria, and there I was born in Nigeria. So I stayed in Nigeria from my birth in the mid '80s up to '92. There was a
Okay.
discussion between my parents for me
Mm-hmm.
to come to Ghana as a stepping stone for the rest of the family to come in. They put me in Achimota school,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember that day vividly. It was at the height of the '92 elections, and my dad drove me in a yellow pickup. Um, it was branded PNC because my uncle was standing again for the
Is it People's National Congress or what? What was the name? The PNC.
so they dropped me in Achimota school the very first day, and the whole boarding house, lower boys, I remember Yakube, 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 you know. I got all the fun needed, because yeah,
Fight
because of my
Club.
background, everybody expected that I was coming in, because the news was all around that, the um, president of Ghana's at the time they thought I was the grandson, so is the
Oh.
grandson. Yeah, it was coming to Achimota school, and I had all the fans. So, even at that time, it didn't occur to me that I was going to school. I thought I was just coming to school, you know. And
Mm-hmm.
I saw them carrying some transport box. I didn't understand what it was, And my dad, when everything was settled, my dad said, "Oh, he's going to buy me ice cream, so I should wait for him. He's going to come back." He sat in the car and left. And when he left, there for an hour, the ice cream wasn't coming. That's when I realized that no, I've been tricked into a boarding school. Yeah. So that was the background for me, coming back into Ghana. But my family eventually came back to Ghana, I think in 95,
Okay.
94, 95. Yeah. But my dad was
Yeah.
the last. My dad came back in 99 finally because his brother, Dr. Hilla Limann, had passed. He passed in 98, and my dad had to come back to Ghana to inherit him as the paramount chief of my
Mm,
hometown and assume the position of the head of the family.
mm,
So that's
mm.
how we all came back to Ghana.
Wow. So you have a Nigerian connection.
Yeah, I do have. It depends on what sort of connection it is, but
Well,
yeah, I do
so
have it.
your birth certificate should actually say you are Nigerian.
Uh,
Now you
well,
say,
yeah,
now
yeah,
you can be your black hot.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's true. I did have a Nigerian birth certificate for a while.
See, oh,
Yeah.
see, great, great. I think my follow-up question will be that with the way your background, the challenges, the vastness, being born in Nigeria, coming to boarding school in Ghana, the narrative around the family. How has all this impacted you as a person? And how is it reflective in your work as a filmmaker, an entrepreneur?
Okay, so that's gonna be a very long answer. It has impacted me negatively and positively. Negatively for a very long time, and positively just recently. Now,
Okay.
the I don't know if okay. So the fact is,
Hmm.
there's this been Limann's legacy as a former president has been ridiculed in every quarters. If you, I don't know if at what point you were growing up in Ghana, but there's this story about Rollins chasing him out of Broome from the Flagstaff House or the castle. There's this story narrative that Limann was a weak president. That's why Rollins overthrew him and that kind of thing.
Yes, I
And
think that is what more of us heard. Um, the quote unquote the weakness of his presidency.
yeah,
Yeah.
and something that I should have been carrying around with pride with the fact that my uncle was president, and it got to a point it was like a shame me, because people, instead of taking the good side of it, they were always teasing me with it, and it made me timid, especially in Mota, especially with Achimota. It was people kept teasing me. There was this story about demand, the prices of cocoa coming down, and he
Mhm.
was asked or interviewed on it, and he said in Tree, I don't speak to you very well, but I'm sure you can translate it. They will say that his response was, Coco's business is not his business. His business is busy. If those busy prices, if those busy prices, he would have been bothered. By Miss Coco.
Well, let's put that part as just humor, like the
Yeah,
part of nice humor.
no, but it is humor. But for a child
Mhm.
growing up, I didn't know what was real and what was not. You
No, yeah,
understand what I'm saying? And especially if not just one person saying it, you go to another place, and another person, the person is saying the same thing. You understand
yeah,
what I'm saying? And I mean, it was, and that. So for a long time, I don't know, as a kid growing up, you will always want to hide the fact that you're religious. You
yeah.
always wanted to
I,
hide it.
I think
You know, so,
you have stressed on a very key point in our society. And when I say society, I will just focus on Ghanaian society. How we negate things and the words we use, the language we use, how it affects us so much so that subconsciously we take it and take it everywhere with us. Its impact, I don't think many of us realize the impact of such that you're saying on us. But in the long run and on the long term, it has a very, we've not quantified it, but I will go off the limb and say it's part of the reason that we are where we are today, that we negate so many things and not find the positives that we could actually, work on and make things better. So I'm so sorry and sad to hear this, negation on you. But on the positive note, you're a hustler.
No, I mean, listen. The thing is that I was a kid. I was 6, 7 years old, and I was
Yeah,
hearing stories like that. You understand what
mm,
I'm saying? And
yeah.
um, growing up again, then the Rollins, the name Rollins wasn't allowed. It wasn't. You can't mention Rollins in my house.
It's a
You know.
taboo.
Yeah, it was a taboo. Like you
You know.
can't. Even though the man Hilla Limann wasn't. He wasn't spiteful. Is that's the right word to use in terms of what
Mhm.
happened. He wasn't hateful. He was just he was very calm. But looking back now, I feel like he was going through a lot that he couldn't really express. He might have gone down through a depression because this is the thing. He
Mhm.
was he was on bail till he died. You
Oh.
understand? Yeah, he was on bail. He couldn't leave the country. His assets were frozen or was frozen. He had to. I think he had to report to the police and like any other one. I think once a week. The situation he was living in, he died. He wasn't able to work. Obviously, what work is he going to do?
Mhm.
You understand? Under certain circumstances like this, he lived in total depression. You understand what I'm saying?
So
So
that definitely will do damage to a person or
I didn't get that.
to.
I
I
didn't
said
get you.
that definitely will do damage to a person's self-image and thing. In
Yeah,
that
obviously.
regard, yeah, in that regard, the collective family. I think this question goes to how did the collective family come together to support him, or what are some of the things that the collective family was able to do to support him?
No, people were supporting not just family friends. People were no, not all, not some friends, because again, nobody wanted to be marked as people lost their jobs because they supported him. You understand? I
Mm,
know several people. I don't want to mention names. People lost it because they support. The one who the person who bailed him stood in as surety for the bill lost his job.
mm,
You understand? So it was only close family who didn't care about what anybody would do, especially the government at the time. They were supporting. They
yeah.
were, yeah, and Liman was. I don't think anybody. He was one of the. That's why I think that's the reason why I think my father idolizes him till now. Like I didn't even get it. I thought it was somebody who was just a pushover. I thought he was being a pushover because I felt that there was a lot that he could do, but he was just quiet. He was calm. He tried to pick up the broken pieces and move on with his life. But just that the the government of the day just wouldn't allow him to do what. And the thing is that the president at that time, Rollins, would go around still trying to throw dirt on his name, going around granting interviews. They'll ask him about the reasons for the coup, and he will say Liman was corrupt. Liman's government was this, Liman's government was that. But the fact is that you remember, if you are abreast of our history, in 1979, Immediately, the FRC took over.
Yeah.
They put up kangaroo court and they killed everybody who was in power at that time. Everybody,
Mhm.
everybody was found guilty
Yeah.
and they were executed. But Liman was put before a kangaroo court. He and his ministers, his whole entire government, and
Mhm.
even the kangaroo court could not find any debt on him. That's why he
Mm.
lived.
Mhm.
That's why he lived.
Okay.
Because if you are asking why Rollins didn't just kill him, because he had no he could not have. What reason was he going to use?
Well, sometimes people just don't need a reason.
No, you
But
see,
then
the
we'll
thing
leave
is,
that conversation to a later
well,
time.
let me answer that. You know, there was a period in 1983 where there was the mass exodus of Nigerians, Ghanaians coming from Nigeria.
Yes.
You remember?
I,
Now, the
I
story
was
behind it.
actually one of the children that ended up in Nigeria as well.
Oh, okay. Now, the story behind it was that if you remember, Shehu Shagari was president at the time,
That
right?
is right. It was during
Yeah,
the famine in Ghana.
yeah. Now,
Mhm.
that all that was pressure for Rollins to release Liman.
Mm.
The first they did was, you see, during Liman's time, Liman and Shehu Shagari were very good friends. My younger brother's middle name is,
Mhm.
you understand, because
Yeah.
my father, my father in Nigeria too. So my father wanted to show a younger brother called my younger brother, uh, Shehu. So
Mhm.
um, during that time, we were buying oil on credit from Nigeria,
Okay.
Ghana, when Liman was president. Yeah.
Mhm.
So when the coup happened, one of the things that Shehu Shakari did to support Liman was he cut off the credit line. Now
Mhm.
Ghana had to pay for the fuel, the oil,
Yeah. Mhm.
just because he wanted Rollins to release Liman. When that didn't also happen, then he
Mhm.
did the massive expulsion of Nigerians, Ghanaians living in
Ghana
Nigeria.
must go.
Ghana must go. And
Mhm.
that was one of the things he did to lend his support to um, our family just for them to release Liman. And when that happened, after negotiations and all that, eventually Liman was released on bail in
So he
1983.
followed with the economic sanctions. Um, I so why is it that I know you're working on a documentary that outlines, Liman's life? Why do you think that this story is number one, needs to be told in Ghana history? Number two, why are the children not being at the forefront of telling the story, at least from my point of view? And so these two questions.
Okay, so the first question is about the documentary, why I feel it's important. Okay,
Yes.
so the thing is, it's not just the documentary of Hilla Limann that's important. I feel that we should be very proactive as Ghanaians or as Africans to documenting our history. Um, there's this saying that the black man has no history, and it's not because there's no history; it's because that a lot of it is not recorded in text. A lot
Yeah.
of it is recorded through oral tradition, and
Yeah.
when you try to relay information orally from the beginning, from the source to the destination, at point it will be distorted. You understand what I'm saying? There's a lot of distortion, and a lot of bits are included in the stories. And then now it's fine when it gets to the destination, you can't tell which is real and which is not. Um, Look,
Mm-hmm.
like I told you from the beginning, I'm a student of history. I've always loved history. I've always wanted to be a part of the recording of history. One of the books I first read in secondary school, or no, not in, I mean GSS was a history of Ghana written by F.K. Boa, and yeah, I think he did well. F.K. Boa, mind you, was in Limann's government, and he was Minister of Education. When he was documenting the story or the history of Limann's government, despite the fact that Limann was in power for 2.5 years, he achieved a lot, but he summarized everything in 1.5 page.
At least he got 1.5 page. Some people just get one paragraph.
No, but
Just
mind you, you know, I'm not sure between Limann and Buzia whose reign was the shortest. I can't really tell. But in the same book, Buzia had about 2.5 or 3 pages, and I'm wondering, look, I believe that I'm one of the few among my mates or whoever. I think that I'm very much familiar with Ghanaian history, and I can't really pinpoint any real thing that Buzia did, apart from the fact that he devalued the cedi by 42%, and he brought in the system of decentralization and local governments and local government or whatever it is. I can't really pinpoint what really he did. But Limann, off the top of my head, I can point out about 10 points of what he did. So I don't know how Buzia's story or recollection of history can be 2.5 pages, man is 1.5. I don't understand. But again, I'm sure the book was during the time Rawlings was in government. So again, FK doesn't want to he does not want to lose his job or whatever it is, or he doesn't want to get into trouble. But the fact is that there's a systematic attempt to erode the legacy of Limann.
Okay.
There's been a
in the quest to, put that the Third Republic, make it known to Ghanaians and the world. Um, you did say that you could count a few things that Liman has done, about 10 things off the top of his head, of your head, when he was in power for the 2+ years before his government was toppled. Can you share with us maybe 2 or 3 things that he did for the country? Because there's a generation that were living there at that time who may be aware, and then there's the younger generation who may just know the name but have no idea who Lehman is and some of the things that he did. So, if you don't mind, then you could deliberate on 2 or 3 of these things that he did in and for Ghana, the country.
Okay, so the first thing he did was, if you remember, during that time there was a lot of queuing for essential commodities like soap, like milk, like brooms, like a lot of essential commodities. People had the cash, but they just couldn't buy. Now, all that happened because of the June 4th killings. So what the West did was that they issued an economic blockade on Ghanaian industries or the Ghanaian market. They decided that they were not going to supply because of the killings that happened. And not even before then, there was this issue about the champion refusing to pay debts. If you remember.
Yes.
Yeah. So when he refused to pay the debt, then people were like, okay, well, they were not going to credit you with anything. Then Rawlings came and made it worse by also killing military officers and all that. And when that happened, that started the queuing and all that, and the calabulis and all that kind of things. So when Limann came, because Limann was a diplomat from the beginning, he knew how to use diplomacy to solve issues relating to violence and things like that. So he had a good background in and as well as constitutional law. So he used that skill to diffuse the tension between Ghana and the West, and the economic blockade was released or removed, and that allowed the inflow of goods and commodities into Ghana. And he went on a massive tour of the world to put Ghana back on the platform or on the map, to draw in investment or investors into Ghana. Through that, he was able to bring in and Tata buses. If you remember the point in our history, there was a lot of Tata buses in Ghana to improve our transportation system. Now, when that was introduced, you realize that now buses were moving and on time. If late, you know that 6 o'clock you have to go to the station. If you don't go at that time, you will not get the bus or you miss the bus. So it allowed the transport system in our country to improve. It was during this time that the use of asphalt. Before then, the use of asphalt was relatively unknown. Liman's time that he imported a lot of asphalt into the country, and a lot of the roads were built. Especially, there's this linkage from Abidjan to I think it's the Eastern Corridor Road from Abidjan to Lomé. Liman's time that Ghana completed that portion, Accra to Takoradi, that portion, Ghana and to Cote d'Ivoire and what do you call it, and Togo. Then it was Ghana. Limann built the Kuntuse satellite. I don't know if you are familiar with the Kuntuse
I asked for 2 or 3. Now I'm getting more.
No, I can give a lot. I can give a lot. There's a lot. The Black Star Line that was done. He came and revamped the Ghana Air and Portmore Airlines aircraft. He did a lot.
Okay.
He did a lot.
In
So within 2 years,
So
he built the Pond Dam. Built that one too.
Yeah. Let's take a quick break and come back.
Okay.
Yes, let's take a quick break and come back. This has been the Nana Yaya Show. If you have not liked, subscribe, please do like and subscribe and hit the notification button. Anytime we are online, you get the notification to come and join us. We will be back on a second. We'll be back with Junaid Limann, and we will continue with the Limann story and move on to that suburb, the first Afro punk. Is it Afro rock or Afro punk music, group coming out of Ghana?
Your expression.
This is the Nana Yaya Show.
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 Hi viewers, welcome back to the Nanaya Yagwa show. This is the second part of the show with our our guest, Junaid Limann. So Junaid, welcome back to the
Thank you.
show. We're going to switch momentum and do some fun part of this conversation. That suburb. That suburb. How many shows have they actually done at this point in time?
Since their
Yes,
inception
since their inception.
or this year, they've done a lot. They've done a lot. They've done a lot. I can't give a
What is
number.
your
They've done a
10,
lot.
20, 100? Yes,
More than 20.
2050.
Yeah, they started in
More
2015.
than 20.
Immediately they came out. They were nominated for album of the year with Wizkid, with Falipupa, with P Square. Um, yeah, I mean they performed on big platforms like um the what All Africa Music Awards in Nigeria
Yeah,
twice, and that was the biggest platform for all. It's like Ghana's Africa's version of the Grammys.
yeah.
So
So when did your involvement with that suburb begin? That journey? Where did that begin?
um, my interest was kindled in in 2019, 2000, no 2018.
Okay.
2018. I am a promoter, an event promoter organizer. I wanted to do a show, so I engaged their manager at the time, and we discussed that we're going to do a show somewhere, and we agreed on thing. And a day before I said I wanted to make the payments, day before I wanted, the manager came back to tell me that they're not interested in doing the show anymore. I'm like, why? And he just couldn't give me any good reason. So even at that time, I hadn't really listened to them like that. It was just a recommendation of a few people. So I was like, okay, fine. If you're not going to do the show, eventually I got somebody else to do the show. As time went on, I
So
started listening to their music, and I got, I got a little bit more interested in what they represented because I realized that that kind of music was different. And me, I come from a hip hop background, and I could easily relate to the kind of music that they do, especially that the fact that it is not widely, well, I don't know whether to use the word accepted, but it was any hip hop person can relate to what they were doing. And then I love the fact that they were singing in pidgin. I love the fact that the leader of the band was somebody I was a Northerner, you know.
so so that's you got your interest was part to be to manage them in 2018 or 2019.
No, 2019. I just wanted to do a show and I wanted them on. It was
Okay,
later
but
on.
then when did you decide to manage them?
Okay, so it didn't start as management. I was just like I met in 2019. Was it 2019 or 2020? 2020. I got engaged with them again in 20. I engaged them in 2020. I wanted to do another show in that's the Ghana Music Festival with Kofi Mogo,
Yeah.
and I wanted to bring them on. So I
Mm-hmm.
met with somebody, Benis. She was their manager at the time, or she just moved in, started working with them not too long ago, and she and I started talking, and it looked like she was fairly new in the game, like she didn't really know the ropes. So she invited me to come and help her um, make things happen. So she and I started
So,
talking. We started working together. We organized the first show at Plus. Was it Plus 53 or Charms?
So when was this?
This 2020.
Okay. So let's move on to Dark Suburb, the name, Dark Suburb. From your view or from your point working with them, why the name Dark Suburb?
Dark suburb because they are representatives of the people living in the suburbs,
Mhm.
the dark parts of the suburbs, where
Okay.
there's a lot of privileged people. But
Mhm.
although they are unprivileged, although um, they are a community that are a bit deprived, they have skill sets that they believe we believe that could be useful to society. So Dark Suburb represents we use music to tell the story and shed more light on the challenges there, you know. So that's where the name Dark Suburb is from. Dark Suburb is basically a representation of people living in the suburbs.
With your expertise since 2020, being with them and manage it, I know there is a show coming on in a few days or so. It's Halloween.
Yeah.
Yes. Halloween in Ghana. Why?
Hmm. Because of our brand, I think a lot of people relate our brand to because we are the skeletons. We are supposed to be the skeletons, or we are the skeletons, and the philosophy behind that is it's nothing evil, it's nothing satanic. It's just um, if you want to know the true nature of a human being, you have to. We are really not the flesh. That is basically it. We are the bones within
I
us,
think
and
my the reference to my question is Halloween in Ghana, because Halloween is really a North American thing. When you look outside where I'm streaming from, all on the road there are Halloween decorations. So
yeah,
Halloween is not something that is a Ghanaian cultural thing. That's why I am asking that question.
yeah. I
Why
understand the
Halloween
question.
in particular? Yeah.
I understand the question, but I'm just trying to okay, so Halloween itself has become a Ghanaian phenomenon. I the first
Okay.
time, yeah, it has become a Ghanaian. We didn't initiate it. It is people who became converted to the Halloween tradition, and they relate Halloween to our brand. So they call us in, or we go, whatever it is. They think that in Halloween, when they talk about Halloween, the best artist to call to come and perform is Dark Side because of our skeleton, masks. You understand what I'm saying? So it suits our brand in a way because we wear a skeleton mask and fit somehow with
Okay.
Halloween. So
Okay.
that's it. There's
Because
but I was just trying to give
what
I
I
was
was
just trying to give the
preventing, or what
narrative
I didn't
behind.
really, I do understand the negation of the skeleton in Ghana, and I've listened to some of the interviews that has been done and the negation, and really and truly, that was not what I was interested. I was looking at why a Western concept of Halloween it has been tied to Dark Suburb,
Dark Summer.
not the negative aspect of it. Now, a follow up question to this
Oh,
is
okay.
the kind of music, the rock music that Dark Suburb does in Ghana. In your estimation and your view, what is the acceptance level like in Ghana? Do Ghanaians accept it, or there are few challenges and education and transformative
I
mindset
didn't get the
that needs
question.
to work?
I didn't get the question. The line was
So
the
the
network was.
Okay, sorry about that. So the question is looking at the kind of music done by that suburb. It is a rock band. What is the
Yeah.
acceptance level by Ghanaians of rock?
Okay. Um, Ghanaians traditionally do not listen to rock,
Yes.
although Osi, let me ask you a question. Osibisa, what's your music they do? What do
So Osibisa, well, from where I sit, falls under world music because they never really subscribe to a Ghanaian standard of music. They utilize different aspects, including the African percussion, to do their music. So as per genre here, mostly I found them under world music genre, which is very,
so
very
it means that
interesting.
they what they do is a collection of genres put together. So a particular
So
song
they may have
you can
jazz,
hear.
they may have rock, yes. And
So
then
that's exactly
they
what I
would
want to
have
say.
highlights as well.
There's a portion of their music that is rock. Some of their biggest hits are rock. Now a lot of people think that rock has to do. There's a different category
Mhm.
of rock. We have the hardcore rock, the punk, we have the soft rock, we have alternative rock. What we do is alternative. Now, even that
Alternative.
rock is a fusion of rock music, um, high life. There are some hits that are this like there's a song called Get Out. I don't know if you've heard that song. That song is pure high life. There's no
Yes,
rock in it. You understand? There's a song like Ego B.
yes.
There's a song like Ego B. That's high life with a little bit
Okay,
of rock. It's a little bit of rock, but its majority is high life. Of course, we have heavy rock, like a song called Hardest. That's the one you can hear the percussions. I don't know whether I'm not a technical person, so I don't want to use the wrong way, but you hear the guitar, that you know that guitar that it's something like this guy, what's his name? Um, there's this black American who was a rock guy. He died of an overdose. Oh God, I just
I
forgot
have
his name.
no idea. But let's move to the how do you call it? The acceptance, Ghanaians' acceptance of this, and
Okay, so yeah, so I think that there's a limitation to to Ghanaians accepting it because
mhm.
again, like I said, a lot of Ghanaians they love the asopo, the
Okay,
king. Yeah, a lot of them love it, but yeah, there's some acceptance there because yesterday we were on radio and there was a lot of calls, a lot of people who were wondering where Dark Saber has been, and so there's some
okay,
love out there, but it is not as much as we would want it,
okay.
for Ghanaians
So
particularly.
my follow-up question will be that, what are some of the things that, the management and or the establishment is doing to, let Ghanaians know that there's alternative music in the system to actually cater and to tell the stories. It doesn't have to be, high life, hip life, whatever kind of music that we are so used to.
I don't know whether there's a lot that we can do in terms of converting the non-believers of rock. Like, let me use this woman as Riala. Riala is one of the Ghana's biggest exports, but she's not big in Ghana. You know,
Mhm.
she has carved her market, her niche market outside Ghana, and she does all of her shows outside Ghana. You
Mhm.
know, but yeah. So I
Okay.
just think that we just have to, which we discovered that no, a lot of whenever we do local shows, most of them are diasporas. Most people who come
Yeah.
to watch Black Americans, Canadians, Japanese, whoever, they all come to watch. You understand what I'm saying? So we just have to target or redirect our music. We have to redirect our music to where our market is and push hard there. I mean,
That's right.
yeah, that's what I think.
Okay. And if you don't mind, you guys talk about this program or this show you'll be doing in a few days. In a few days' time, you guys
That's
have a show.
Halloween. That's Halloween.
That's
Um, uh,
Halloween. Yeah.
yeah, it's the theme of that Halloween um,
Mm-hmm.
concert is House of Dragons. House of Dragons. If you, yeah, I don't know if you're familiar with to this new TV series, which is a prequel of Game of Thrones. So there's the fashion craze and the people,
Mm-hmm.
the Targaryens with the white hair and all that. So we modeled or we teamed our Halloween performance with House of Dragons. It's happening at what do you call it? The Elites Bar in East Legon
Okay.
um, on the 30th. Um, this will be the first major show we have been on since last year. We did Garage, and it was epic. It was crazy. There was a lot of people who were there. They loved it, and they've been asking us for another show like that. So I felt that
Okay.
like Ellis Bar was a great spot for
Yeah,
this to
yeah,
happen, and
yeah.
that's what we are doing next week Sunday.
Nice, 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 nice. So, Mr. CEO of True Hive Technologies,
Yep.
man, you're doing a lot of things, eh?
Yeah. I mean, I'm somebody who I develop concept and ideas around lapses um, in some business sectors in our country, especially in tech. I feel like
Okay.
Africa, particularly Ghana, is a green field for a lot of tech innovations.
Mm-hmm.
And I spotted a problem that I felt that um, with my ideas, not just mine. I'm working with what was it with Kofi Mogul on this. He's my vice um to True Hive. Um,
Okay.
we discovered a problem. We found the solution to a problem, and that's what we are working on. But just that you
Okay.
know how Ghana is. Ghana is a bit. Um, there are a lot of doors we need to push open, and that's what we're working on right now.
Okay. I love the sound of that. There are a lot of doors we need to push open, and you are going to open it. Wow.
Hmm.
This is marvelous. Well, you know what? Yes, it is. It is great. It is wonderful. I know this one was on the spot, but it's been amazing from having conversations about, Ghana, West Africa, its third republic, and the history not told or the history that has been put into, a one page of the third republic of the country. Not only that, also, the music that is also transforming or changing things in Ghana, which is a dark suburb, which you manage, and also the third aspect, True Hive Technologies. Junaid,
Mm.
man, I don't know what kind of brains you have, but most definitely you got brains to be able to think about the length and breadth of all these. At the end, it's all storytelling and it comes together. Any last, anything that you want to tell people that you know, people about
No, I just
you? Hmm.
about that about okay. So I just feel like there's a lot of story that needs to be told, and I appreciate what you're doing. The fact that you are putting out the narrative out there and letting people know what it is. But I feel like we need to go deeper than that. There's a lot more we need to cover. There's a lot of information we need to unearth. There's a lot of people we need to reveal. There are a lot of unsung heroes, you know, and I'm not just saying this because of a sort of Hilla Limann. Ghana has a very bad habit of not recording our history. Can you imagine that
Yeah.
if you decide to go back into history and say, I want to pick up a story of Nkrumah, you can't find any documentary on Nkrumah done by Ghanaian. Well,
That will have to be rectified. And I think you have started this journey of rectification, starting with Dr. Hilla Limann's story. And I wish you the very best on that production, and we'll be waiting to see the marvelous production that comes out of it. I think we are running out of time. So I'd like to say a very big thank you to you, Junaid.
it's
Juju.
Junaid. It's Junaid. You keep
Junaid.
mentioning it
Leave
wrong.
me alone. Junaid. Yo, I'd like to say a very big thank you to Junaid
Junaid.
Limann, Alexander Limann. Thank you for coming on the Nanaya Yagwa show. And I'll be putting his information down on the platform so you can link up with him if you
The
have more
pleasure is mine.
questions. You can follow him on YouTube, Instagram, and LinkedIn, and Facebook if you so wish and desire. And this has been the Nanaya Yagwa show. I'm your host, Nanaya Yagwa. Please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you, and bye bye.
Yeah, your expression.
This is the Nanaya Yagwa show.